Well, it's nice to be back here again. Yes, as I didn't know I was doing this till yesterday, so what I don't know about Michelle and our company is a big subject, but we won't go into that. Michelle is a very successful founder. She just told me her company now has 450 employees and data centers pretty much all over the world. She's got 20 in China so. Yep. Anyway, your company was founded in 2009, you said?
Yeah, we started working on it really late 29, but we launched at a conference kind of like this, TechCrunch Disrupt, in September of 2010. So we're almost 7 years old.
Okay, so we are supposed to talk today about the kind of team process of a startup. And I just want to let Michelle talk a little bit about the sort of creation myth of CloudFlare and how you guys got together and see what lessons there were there.
Yeah, so we started CloudFlare. We were students at business school, and so I started to work with a classmate of mine as a class project. So instead of taking a class, we did a school project, and the idea was, is there a way that we could help internet properties be fast, safe, and reliable online? And the way, I knew nothing about this domain, by the way, but my two founders, Matthew and Lee, had started something back in 2004 called Project Honeypot, which basically tracked web spammers. So they knew a ton about web spammers, and Matthew was always talking about this project. And finally, I was like, Matthew, what is this? He's like, well, you know, websites sign up, and they put little honeypots on their site, and they track the web spammers. And I was like, well, how many people sign up for that? And he said, oh, we have 80,000 websites. And I was like, 80,000? How do they hear about you guys? And he's like, I don't know. They just hear people talk on community bulletin boards. And I was like, okay, and what does Project Honeypot do? It's like, well, we basically put the webmaster puts honeypots on the sites and sends all the data back somewhere, and then Project Honeypot works with the law enforcement agencies to go find the offenders and actually get the spammers offline. And I was like, doesn't that take a long time? And he's like, yeah, years. And I was like, I was like, why does anyone use this thing or sign up for it? To which finally he said, Michelle, one day, our users want us to create a service that actually uses the data to actually stop the bad guys. And I was like, and so that was how we started. So we started to work on this idea, is there a real problem here? And so as a good business school student, I went like, was there a real problem? And I did this, survey. And, it was one of these things where we sent it to 500 website owners and 150 replied, which if you do any email marketing, that's a really, really high response rate. So the fact that so many replied meant that people were really engaged. And when you read through kind of like the answers we got, it was things like web spammers make me believe in the death penalty. Really visceral, like the people responding like just had a disdain for these web spammers, steal resources, they're the scourge of the earth, they should be in jail. And so again, as someone who didn't know much about it, this was like, oh my goodness, like clearly there's a real problem here. And then when you kind of said, okay, well, what do you do to protect yourselves? Nobody was using a systematic service. There was all these Band-Aids or homegrown. And so it was like, could we use technology to create a service that actually helps solve this problem in a really elegant way? So then we started saying, okay, what would that look like? And this is back in 2009, and we said, well, should we build hardware? We were like, no way, that's way too expensive to distribute. Should we build software? And we said, no, it's too hard to maintain. So we became a service, and we kind of thought about that. And then my last part of the story is, so we kind of gone around, and we had built a business model, and we think there's a real business here. And we went around and we started to tell people about it, like some advisors we trusted. And if you're a student trying to start a business, you have such a advantage, because if you have a .edu email address, you can almost email anyone and they'll reply to you. And so we really kind of, and then there was the alumni of the school.
Unless they're spammed or spoofed, right?
Right, and that's bad. But anyway, we really leveraged some of the alumni of the school and who kind of knew a lot about this area, and they would at least set up a call with us, and we would say, okay, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're thinking about it. And the number one objection we got as we told people our idea, our advisors, people we trusted for feedback, it was, hey, this is really clever. I do think that there isn't a good solution for helping make internet properties safer, but you're going to add a step in the lookup process, which is going to make things slower. And a real business will never pick security over performance, is what someone said. Several people told us that. So we said, okay, so as a good entrepreneur, and hopefully all of you, because people are going to tell you all the things that are wrong with your idea all the time. So we kind of took something that was wrong, we turned it into an asset, and we said, okay, well, how do we solve that problem? And so pretty much what we came up with is like, let's build a global network. And today we have 115 locations around the world, including mainland China, which means that we're really close to where internet surfers are connecting online. And if we're really close to the eyeballs, we can both cache content to make it fast, and we can also filter the malicious traffic to make it safe. And so all of a sudden we became a service. CloudFlare is a service that makes any internet property, small or big, fast, safe, and reliable around the world. And if you go back and look at our business plan from business school, that is the exact same word. So we definitely did not pivot. But we did learn as we kind of were forming the idea.
So focusing back on the team part of it, we're supposed to talk about that. So you had your three yourselves and two other co-founders.
Yep.
Talk about finding the nucleus of the expanded team that could actually make a business happen.
Yeah, so it's I living in San Francisco, in Bay Area, I'm always, there's so much good content online of how do you find a founding team, and there's like a lot of points of view online. A lot of it's good. Some of it I disagree with, but I think that, you survey 10 different founding teams and you probably will get 7 different answers. And so at the end of the day, it's kind of, you're in charge, you have to do what's right for you and make it work. For us, I think things that worked really well is, Matthew, Lee, and I, there's 3 of us that started the company, and we are very different people. And so we have very different skill sets, very different backgrounds, but we had this really shared vision that brought us together, and we trusted one another, which was really important. And so when we started, and now 6.5 years later, obviously it was the right choice, but at the time it was not obvious. And I'd get a lot of people saying, why are you starting a company with Matthew? And then I had a lot of people say to Matthew, why would you want to start a company with Michelle? People are very confused. And what I think the best analogy is we were like a Venn diagram, and we covered a lot of surface area. So we kind of had these 3 circles. We had a little bit of overlap, and you need some overlap because that's where you need a shared vision and trust and whatnot. But we covered a lot of surface area, which meant, Matthew is an amazing visionary, incredibly strategic. I mean, he has a technical background, so computer science, English, so he can tell stories. He also went to law school and business school. And as a tech CEO, being business technical, like business technical and policy legal is really, really, really powerful. And so he's great at that. But some of the details of, okay, if we're going there, what are all the things we need to do to get there? Not his strength. I'm much better at that. It's like, okay, we're going there, and sometimes I can be like, oh, that's awesome, and other times I can be like, no, that's a terrible idea. We shouldn't go there. We should go, we'll try again. But once we figure out where we're going, I can help make the trains run on time, or put the processes in place, or get the people directed in that area. And then Lee was our technical founder, and so a lot of the initial architect, a lot of the initial testing to build this sort of thing, and he was able to attract really great technical talent, because at the end of the day, we're a technology company, and R&D is the lifeline of what we do, and so we were really fortunate to have a really strong technical founder that could help recruit great technical folks to be on our founding team to help make our vision come to life.
So let's just flesh that out, just to reiterate what you said. So it's great when the founders have complementary strengths.
I think so.
And then,
it's hard though sometimes.
And then when you get those, when you're trying to get that next level of people, what are the key hires first?
Yeah, well, so again, it depends on what your business is. And in our case, we had this vision. We were really good at telling the vision. We were pretty clear that there was a problem here. We had to go build it. So we needed engineers to help us build things. And again, Lee was doing great, but he needed folks and again, he was a pretty strong generalist, but he didn't know everything. So we needed someone who was needed a really good C-level coder, because we were doing some pretty low-level programming. We needed someone who really knew analytics. We needed someone, because again, we were like, well, we need to build out all these data centers. We started with 0. We didn't know how to do that, and so we had to find someone who could help us manage them while we brought them offline, and that was our 6th hire. So those are some of the key hires for our business that made a lot of sense. And then pretty soon it was like, okay, we have to make this look good for end customers. We need someone more on the front end. And so that was kind of our progression. What was interesting is, and so those were kind of our first 7 hires. And then our 8th hire, before we kind of launched the service to the public, and we had been running this private pilot. So over this whole time, we basically started a private pilot, and we were trying to get to 100 internet properties. So like, again, if you're a website, an app, a blog, an API, anything a toaster connecting to the internet, you want to be fast, safe, and reliable, you can use Cloudflare. And so today, we have 15,000 new sites that sign up every day. But back in the early days, like when I was in your chair, like getting to our first 100 customers was so hard, so hard. And I remember like we had gotten finally, every day we were, making progress. I had this piece of cardboard because we're so poor, we had no resources, super scrappy. And we'd like, as a more person sign up, we'd just color in the cardboard to try and get to the 100. Like we had a 100 meter kind of thing. We just kept coloring it up, and we said, okay, if we get to 100, we're going to take everyone to Vegas. And we got to 100 eventually. It took us like a month longer than we thought, and we took the whole team, all 5 of us, to Las Vegas, which was really, really, really fun because we had to go celebrate along the way.
You had to rent a sedan.
Yeah, well, we flew there, thankfully, from Southwest out of San Jose. It was very inexpensive, and we stayed at someone's friend's house, but it was great. But and so we had all these engineers, and we had other folks who joined, but our 8th hire, which I think surprised a lot of people, because again, we went from 1,000 to 100 to 1,000 people in our private beta before we launched to the public, again, at a conference like this. And we were like getting ready to go launch at this conference, and no one knew who we were. We were so under the radar. And we just said, okay, wow, when we launch, and if this starts to really grow, we need someone to help us with our community. Because our customers from day one were all over the world. Like we did not have, everyone in the Bay Area was using Cloudflare and other people weren't. And so our number 8th hire was a community manager. And so again, this was not a developer, and their job was to say, okay, when we launch and we have all these folks kind of talking about us on Twitter or wherever, or talking about us on Stack Overflow, having someone there to be part of the conversation. And so his name was Damon, and he found us online, and he ended up joining. He was with us for 5.5 years, and he was amazing. And to this day, I remember I was like hiring a head of marketing, and I said, yeah, and you'll meet Damon during the interview process. So like, wait, that's a real person? I see his name everywhere in all these comment boards. I thought it was a bot. I was like, no, Damon's a real person. He was one of our first hires, and really
So not to get too
critical.
far ahead too fast, but that first 8 people,
Yeah.
how did you find them? I presume you didn't just put an ad up on LinkedIn or something.
Well, sometimes I did. I mean, so the first couple, again, when we had nothing, we found them. One we found on LinkedIn. We reached out to them. It was, again, the C-level programmer, and he had this great background, but was working as a web developer. And we kind of reached out. Matthew, my business partner, our CEO, reached out saying, hey, you have a great background. I notice you like do a lot of low-level like C programming, C++ programming, but you're working as a web developer. That seems strange. Do you want to hear what we're coming? And it turns out he was doing that because for visa reasons, for immigration reasons. And so he was just in that job because he kind of was stuck. And so that was great. And he was with us for 4 years, and awesome. And then the analytics person, we pulled out of a PhD program from one of the local universities. And part of it was that his supervisor had just taken a job at Google. And if you're a PhD student without a supervisor, that's not a very good place to be. So as an entrepreneur, that's an opportunity. And so we had just kind of heard about him through a TA there, and we reached out. And again, he ended up staying
Which
with
school?
us. Santa Cruz, UC Santa Cruz. So again, it's kind of this random stories. Someone else who got introduced to somebody else, who helped with the technical operations side. But Damon, the community person, actually was a job posting.
Huh.
And when I think about today, and again, I've hired a lot of people at Cloudflare. We have 450 people now. 50% of the people we hire are inbound, people who find us. They either find us because we posted a job, or they see us speak at something like this, or they read our blog and they think it's interesting and they apply. 50% is really high. I think it's really healthy for a tech company. And then the other 50% is referral. And we do very, very little outbound recruiting.
Yeah, headhunters type
We
stuff.
do almost less than 5% of that.
At what stage did you find it appropriate to get sort of what you might call overhead type functions, your lawyers, accountants, and things like that?
Yeah, it's all, so we were really flat for a very long time, and that served us really well because it gave us tons of flexibility. But now again, I'm 450 people in. It turns out first of all, I love our legal team. they add a ton of value to the company. And we actually hired someone pretty early, like when we had 60 people. And again, we had outside counsel, but then we brought someone in, and that was really helpful. I mean, it helps you not make silly mistakes. Some mistakes can be very costly down the road. Accounting as well, like we kind of had a bookkeeper and we were kind of doing it. We kind of used kind of an outsource firm, but eventually, like the way I think about it is like, we started to have product market fit like really early. Like we were solving a meaningful problem and we had customers signing up. And it became really clear that Cloudflare was onto something. And it wasn't like, will this company exist? Like that's not the problem we had. For us, it was like, can we execute on the potential in front of us in the right order, fast enough without all the wheels falling off the bus? And managing high growth is a different problem. It's hard. It's really hard. And you see some companies do it really well, and you see some other companies do it fantastically terrible and implode in front of you. And so for us, like we knew we had traction and that a lot of foundations there. And so in that case, we started to like layer in these different teams. And so we had a controller join again, kind of 45, 50 people in-house. And she was awesome and helped just like get things off my plate, off Matthew's plate, make it more professional. Because like at the end of the day, you're a real business. We still have fun, but at the end of the day, like we're a real business and we have a commitment to our customers and our commitment to shareholders to deliver on that. And like these functions play a big role in helping to make that happen.
How did your investors, VC investors, I know you have some major ones, I think, how did they help or affect the team building process? Oh
God, another topic that there's so much content online about, and again, I have my own point of view. So we've raised $182 billion. We've done 4 rounds, our Series A through D, and what I like to say is not all investors are created equal, and so you should optimize for the person, not the valuation or the terms. And so
the person as in the person at the VC firm?
Yeah, the investor. And so I think we've done a really good job, again, along the way, optimizing for the person, and that served us well. And we have a great board, it's a healthy board, but like, again, 6.5 years in, I can see how if you make silly decisions, like it is really hard to kick an investor out of your company. Like it's I mean, if you marry someone you don't like, I mean, that's also hard, but like this is like even harder. And so it's one of these things where—
I think of the children.
Right, well, it's really, again, we have investors who have the same vision that we do for Cloudflare. They're very long-term focused and help us do the right thing, help us when we need help, and otherwise trust us to run the company. And it's been a really great. So again, if there's one thing you remember about when you're raising money, it's getting, like, if your gut's saying, well, this person will give us a higher valuation, but I like that person more, and you go talk to other entrepreneurs who've worked with these investors, pick the one you like more that has a shared vision with you. Because again, I think long-term, if you keep creating value, those things can get fixed.
I think our time is up.
All right.
Michelle, it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Don.
Sure.